right, my darlings, here we are, Orestes and the Furies. This is our little mini lesson for Book 3 of the Odyssey. Before we begin, let's talk about the brothers. We have Agamemnon and Menelaus, who are a pair of kings who are brothers, and they are married to a pair of sisters, Clytemnestra and Helen. And in our last mini lesson, we talked about how Helen is whisked away by Paris because Paris thinks that Aphrodite is the most beautiful among the Greek goddesses, so he gets to keep Helen as his prize for choosing her. This is obviously the catalyst for the start of the Trojan War. So, because Menelaus was married to Helen and Helen was taken away by a prince of Troy, Agamemnon and Menelaus go off and grab all the kings of the Greeks and their armies, of which Odysseus is one. Now, they are inviting, in the loosest sense, all of these kings to come and join them in war. The fact of the matter is that this is a responsibility of kingship if you are a part of the Greeks, because there are so many kings among the Greeks, and the Greeks are kind of spread out all over the place because they live on little islands or whatnot. They all have to answer the call to war when one of the other kings asks them to come. Unfortunately for Odysseus, as you are reading, he is taken away on the very day that Telemachus comes into the world. At any rate, Odysseus, along with Menelaus and Agamemnon and all the other kings, go off, and they end at Aulis. They stop at Aulis because there are no winds that are happening. The winds have stopped, they have ceased, nothing is blowing, which means that their ships can't move forward. So Agamemnon gets this great idea that he will sacrifice his oldest daughter, Iphigenia, to Artemis. If you remember, Artemis is the goddess of the hunt. She is also a virgin goddess, so she is looking out for all the young girls. Iphigenia at this point is maybe 10 or 12. She's young, but Agamemnon wants to help his brother out, so he slays her. There are a couple of different stories where Artemis whisks Iphigenia away at the very last second, and there are other stories where she is actually killed. You can make your own decisions on what happens here. At any rate, the winds start back up and the entire fleet can move on to Troy. So the Trojan War happens. Agamemnon returns, after 10 years and is expecting to be welcomed home. Well, let us not forget that he sacrificed his wife's and his oldest daughter in order to get to Troy. Clearly, Clytemnestra is not going to be happy about this. But, she puts on a smiling face, she invites him in, sets this beautiful, lavish table full of delicious goodness, and then is murdered by Clytemnestra's lover, Aegisthus, while he's eating this amazing feast. Orestes, who is their youngest child and only son, his nurse hears about this, whisks him away into safety, and Orestes bides his time until he can avenge his father's murder with the help of his older sister Electra. When he gets old enough, when he enters into manhood, Orestes presents himself as a stranger because he's grown up now away from his mother, so she may not have an idea of who he is, but he presents himself as a stranger and asks for hospitality. So in he comes to Clytemnestra and Aegisthus' house, and while he is there, he avenges his father by killing both Aegisthus and his mother. Let us pause for just one moment to review these three unbreakable rules that the ancient Greeks had. First rule: respect and honor the gods, and by extension your kings and your rulers. Number 2, respect your family, especially your parents, children. And number 3, show hospitality. Well, by murdering Clytemnestra and Aegisthus, he has broken all three of these rules. When he murdered Aegisthus, he murdered the ruling king. He, number 2, murdered his mother, so he did not respect his family. And by presenting himself as a guest and murdering his hosts, he is breaking one of the sub-rules in hospitality. Enter the Furies. So remember that the Furies are these avenging spirits of the underworld. And this is their responsibility when these rules are broken to do something about it. So the Furies chase Orestes all over the place and torment him. It is not a happy time for Orestes. He's constantly running from place to place, trying to outrun them. You can't outrun the Furies. They're supernatural, but they chase him down. Eventually, though, Orestes ends up in Athens, where he pleads his case before the Areopagus. And they are, divided 50-50. They're like, yeah, we understand why you did it. And the other half is like, yeah, but you need to follow these rules. So Athena comes in and casts the deciding vote in favor of Orestes, and he is then no longer chased around by the Furies. So in one fell swoop, he gets rid of the Furies and he creates modern day juries as we know it. At any rate, this has been our presentation for the story within the story. The one I'm referring to is on page 27 of your book. So when Menelaus begins to talk about Orestes and what happened, now you know the rest of the story.